Spencer Tower. It what? Failed? No, there's only one locomotive for a job like this. Send in the Bachmann. $200 engines, $300 engines, $500 engines. Model railroaders have an almost unending selection of little locomotives available from a variety of manufacturers. If you ask modelers about Bachmann products, you will get a range of answers from absolute garbage to they're not as bad as people say. Broadway Limited Imports, similarly, has its supporters and detractors. Generally speaking, most modelers regard BLI engines as better than Bachmann. I've seen a slight reversal of that stereotype, however. Twice, actually. The following is a true story. While I do not have authentic video of the actual incidents in either case, I can show you the locations and equipment involved, or simply reenact it. Our story begins back in, I believe it was late 2017. I was rather new to the HO side of the hobby and building up my collection. At the time I had 4 locomotives, a Bachmann Porter 060 tank, a B&O Proto 060, a Bachmann NW 280, and a BLI Paragon 3 CSX AC 6000. I had joined the Winchester Model Railroad Club at the time and was getting my bearings. One evening I decided to take the AC 6000 for a trip around the Mountain Division. The WMRRC layout had 2 loops, a double-track mainline that could be run DC or DCC, and the Mountain Division, which was pure DCC territory. Most of the members had DC-powered locomotives, so the Mountain Division saw little use. I started to take the AC 6000 and a mix of club freight stock around the Mountain Division, but as she went, I kept hearing the coupler pin sound effect. If you've ever programmed a Paragon locomotive on the main line, you know that sound. Pling, pling, pling. It can be just a sound effect, or it can mean one of the decoder's CVs has changed. The engine went until it lost power on a switch for a moment and just wouldn't do anything. Lights would come on and the sounds would start, but nothing else. I fiddled with it for a while before taking it to the programming desk and resetting the decoder. It was working again. I put the thing back on the layout and carried on. The pling, pling sounds continued. I made it another third of the way around the Mountain Division before the engine stopped dead again in a very awkward location. Same symptoms. I managed to extract the locomotive from that very hard-to-reach spot and reset the decoder again. It was working, but I was not sure why the locomotive was reprogramming itself as it went down the track, so I figured I should retire it for the night. I still had to bring the club freight cars back to the yard, though, so I got out the next most powerful locomotive I had at the time, a Bachmann 280 in Norfolk and Western paint, number 718. The cars were in a location where, no matter which way I took them, I would face an uphill battle. I figured going back the way I came would be the better option. I reversed 718 around the Mountain Division and tied onto the cars. Then I started the return pull. I was running her nearly full speed trying to get a run at the hill when I passed the switch tower at one end of a hidden staging yard. 718 jumped the tracks and created a short with a wisp of smoke coming off a driving wheel. I yanked her off the track, thinking for sure I had fried the decoder. After a minute, I cautiously put her back on the track. The sounds came online. I felt her out with a couple back-and-forth movements, and she was okay. I coupled her back onto the train and made the best run I could at the hill. She made it about halfway up before stalling. At this point, she was just across the aisle from the yard, so I moved a couple of the heavier cars back by hand, and 718 got the remaining cars to the yard by herself. From then on, 718 became known to me as the Bachmann engine that rescued a train from a Broadway engine. She was the show pony steam locomotive of my collection for a while, but as time went on and as I acquired more locomotives, she was slowly sidelined. I picked up a pair of Broadway Limited Pennsylvania Railroad H10 280s that more or less took over for her. Still, I brought her out and ran her occasionally. That's how the next incident took place. In 2019, between the loss of the Winchester layout and my joining the Northern Virginia Model Railroaders, I acquired a Broadway Limited Paragon 3 Big Boy, number 4021. It was a great engine and would pull anything, but I had problems with it seeming to lose power and cutting out now and then. The decoder was one of the boards made before the plug for a GoPack capacitor bank was added. I soldered the leads to a GoPack directly to the decoder board as BLI instructed, and 4021 ran much better. One evening in early 2022, I was out at the club running 4021 around. As I did, the locomotive stopped a couple times and flashed both front and rear headlights at me, which was odd. I was able to reset the engine by breaking contact with the track and letting the capacitors drain. It did this a few times and I knew something was wrong. I decided I would try to get the train back to the staging yard. Right behind Spencer Boulevard, 4021 started doing it again and nothing would bring it back. Any attempt to move resulted in flashing lights. I pulled the engine off the train and put it back in its box. This left a fairly long train sitting right on the main line. I would, of course, have to move those cars to a yard before I left. As it just so happened, I had a certain little Bachmann 280 with me that night, and when I saw the opportunity for a second rescue, I couldn't say no. This time, the run to the staging yard was just a flat section of track. Though the train was a heavier one than I would usually give to 718, she did it. For the second time, this little Bachmann 280 brought home a train stranded by a failed Broadway Limited Imports Paragon 3 locomotive. I called BLI's service department, and they said that flashing is a trouble code for a problem either in the motor or decoder. I was told in such cases they replace both. They could send me a new motor for $30 and a new decoder for $99, or the flat service rate for sending the engine in was $129 at the time. The big boy took a little 3-month Florida vacation and has been mechanically reliable ever since. A lot of people dislike Bachmann products, and they have their reasons. Bachmann products of the 80s and 90s were really trouble-prone, but the modern equipment is, in my mind, pretty decent. It won't pull the world down by any stretch, but they work and are usually mechanically solid. The more modern DCC-equipped diesels are good options, and steam locomotives like the 280 have earned their reputations well. Perhaps that's the lesson to take away from this. Whatever you think of Bachmann, some of their products absolutely can swoop in and save the day.